That's also what I would say. So we love to call out the ally in everyone because everybody can be an ally for other underrepresented people. So if you are not queer, you can still go to a queer party and be an ally there and learn also from other communities because that's how you can help them in listening, in seeing and experiencing what they experience, and sometimes use your privileges more for good.
Welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. My name is Dirk Jan Hupkes, and on this podcast I give the women who work in tech the platform they need to inspire and empower each other. Join me on a journey into the world of entrepreneurship, funding, biases and role models to discover the strategies for success in the tech industry. In other words, how women can disrupt tech. Are you ready to listen? Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech, and thank you for tuning in to a very special episode 100. Before I introduce my guest on this episode, I want to thank everyone who has helped me get here. A special thanks to my guests in the previous 99 episodes for inspiring my audience with their stories. Also, a big thank you to Michiel Sujit Rijt for pushing me to make a business out of this podcast. And last but not least, I want to thank Sangeeta Bose, my girlfriend, for her unwavering support. With that, let me introduce my guests on this special episode 100, Sacha Martina and Danielle Jiskoot. They are the founders of House of Inclusion, and in this episode, they'll share their recipe for companies to become DEI champions. By listening to this episode, you'll discover the roadmap to becoming a DEI champion, why focusing on people instead of profit is just smart business, and the importance of allies and why everyone can and should become one. Plus, you'll hear about a new initiative that came up while we recorded the episode that would highlight companies that are DEI leaders and driving systemic change. So, when you're ready to listen and learn how we can build DEI champions in tech and beyond, please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, episode 100, Sacha Martina and Danielle Jiskoot. Danielle Jiskoot, Sacha Martina, welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. Good to have you. Maybe good if you tell the audience how you got into your current positions as founders of House of Inclusion. Sacha, you go first.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for inviting us. And we are excited to talk to you about House of Inclusion and everything that we are doing on a day-to-day level. But I got in this current position because I was very mission driven around everything that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think already for all of my life, but it became extra special around the period of Black Lives Matters for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger dream and ambition to really start an agency around that became reality. Yeah, when me and Danny became good friends and decided to start up this adventure in the end of 2023. Yeah.
So, Danielle.
The same as Sasha. Well, I've been working on the topic for quite a few years. I think it dates back to when I was studying. I studied political science. I already saw that there's a lot to do with your platform when you come from a place of privilege, but also from a place of knowledge to help make the world more equitable. And it wasn't until I started working that I saw that there was a lot of inequality at work as well. So, besides everything that's going on in society and worldwide, I saw on the work floor there's a lot of inequality too. And when I started noticing it, but also got mental issues because of it at the work floor, I decided this is something to really start focusing on. And this was about, I don't even know, maybe about 8 years ago or so. Same as also, we met each other. I became a speaker on the topic as well, started a different agency, and then Sas and I decided to get together in House of Inclusion at the end of 2023.
So, how did the two of you meet, Sasha?
But it is a fun story. So we are both public speakers, and we always say we are very obsessed with the topic. And then it becomes also a very natural thing to talk about, to speak about. And in that period, both of us got asked more and more to speak on stages and to participate in panels. And this was one of those nights where Danielle was invited to participate in a panel, and I was sitting in the room because it was about female leadership and female empowerment or something around those topics. And she was in the panel, and I thought this lady is very cool. She talks a lot about diversity. She talked a lot about drag queens, and that was for me a trigger to go talk to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Danielle, you said, "Oh yes, let's start a business together." Or
No, that was not the process, unfortunately. So it was. I remember that. Yeah, the room was full of women, but we had a conversation afterwards during drinks. We just had a chat, and I remember Sasha texting me after saying, "Hey, let's go for a drink." And this was nothing to do with starting a business together or anything like that. I was still in my previous company that I started together with two amazing co-founders as well, and we managed a lot of drag queens, but also other talents. And then we had coffee, but it was just to talk about being an entrepreneur, being a female entrepreneur as well, even though it shouldn't make a difference. It sometimes just does. And we talked about just, yeah, little things that we encounter when we're working. So we developed a friendship first. And over the years, we called each other when something was happening at our current job or something with our team, and we needed someone to reach out to. So it started building from a mutual level of friendship and trust, being founders ourselves. And then we just reached a certain point, kind of at the same time, where we decided our business is great and we're having a lot of fun, but it's time for a next mission. And that's when we started seeing that DEI was becoming a bigger topic as well for companies to focus on. So it was kind of hand in hand with the developments around DEI. And we just started talking. And when we were in process of leaving our previous company operationally, we said, well, maybe a next step is to work together. So that's when the idea of House of Inclusion came into existence.
and maybe good also to say what House of Inclusion then is, does.
So, House of Inclusion is a modern age consultancy, and we say modern age on purpose because we give advice, we give a variety of services, but we are very pragmatic.
Hmm.
We try to make it fun and give our clients hands-on tools and tips where that they can implement very quickly. And that's why a lot of times when you say consultancy, people also have a not the same assumption as what we are offering. So we offer a variety of things. We offer a lot of workshops and trainings to create impact and to build awareness within companies. We do a lot of keynotes as well. Those are almost like we say short impact sessions. But we also do a lot are more strategy sprints. So there is something that we help clients with a very agile way. So we help them in a sprint way towards a more inclusive goal. But we also help writing policies around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We help with events and creating more inclusive events. So it's a quite a broad range of services that we offer, always with the goal in mind that we believe every company can become a D&I champion.
Okay. Going back to something Daniela just said, does being a woman help that in that regard?
Good question. I don't know if helping is the right word for it. It's just a different experience. So a man could also do this. Someone who is or identifies as a man. It's about the experience that you have. So within DNI, it's such a huge topic. There's you have neurodiversity, you have LGBTQ plus, you have gender, you have accessibility. There's so many things to cover.
Hmm.
So also, if you're a cis white man, so cis is when you're born as a man and identify as male. And but you're in a wheelchair, for example, you can also work on a topic, or if you've just experienced something at work before. So there's really not a way to say discriminate within the team. So I, for example, I'm a white cis woman, and I come from a very well-off town in the middle of the Netherlands. So I come with a lot of privilege. But then I also have I'm a part of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm a female founder, so that gives me certain topics within DEI. So everyone has their own experience. So anyone could work on the theme, basically. And also if you're a white heterosexual male.
Yeah, like me.
Yes, 100%.
Exactly. Yeah, so
Yeah,
anyone could work on it. Yeah.
yeah. For well, I've been working on it for a while now. But does it? Do you think it? Yes, I agree that everyone is able to do this. But do you think, sort of in terms of reverse privilege, that it gives you an extra edge if you have experienced, let's say, being on the wrong side of the DEI debate?
Yeah, maybe that does give an extra edge. It's good to know it, but with every theme, it's good if you speak from experience. So it gives you an extra layer of also being an expert on your own theme. So it definitely does. But there's yeah, a platform for so many groups within this theme. But definitely when you speak about a certain topic, if you've experienced it yourself, it gives you 100% more expertise. And it also makes it a stronger position to be in. So that, yes, could help for sure.
So, Sasha, let's go to DEI. What's broken currently in companies with DEI that you can help them with?
Ah,
Let me rephrase it. Why are not all companies DEI champions yet?
well, that is the dream, because then we can do something else with our day
Yeah.
jobs, right?
Hmm.
But why it's not there yet? That is a layered question. But one of the big things is that you do see in the business world, and that is also reflecting not just in the business, but also, for example, in the medical industry and in the financial industry, is that if we only focus already on the point of gender, that women have a disadvantage. So we are now starting to become a bit more equal and get equal opportunities. But I don't have to tell you that yeah, we have a disadvantage, because a lot of times women's rights were not at an equal level as men's
Hmm.
rights.
Yeah.
But that is the same for a lot of intersections um, next to just gender. Things like your cultural background, your socioeconomic background, the ability that you have physically and mentally, all these things come in place. And yeah, the people that build a company, that create a company and build a company, used to be a pretty sorry, I'm looking for the
Yes.
word,
Um,
homogeneous group,
yeah.
Homo.
without placing too many people in boxes. But it used to be quite a similar group of people that decided the vision and the future of a lot of companies. And if you want to, yeah, change that while the company is already established and is quite big, it becomes more and more difficult.
Hmm.
So not impossible at all, but you do see the later in a stage a company is actually starting to focus on this and
Hmm.
starting to learn about this, the more difficult it is to change these values and these beliefs that always have been the way that they have been. And we do see a big significant change, for example, with more startup and scale up companies, where almost from the start, the founding team is talking about this and is constantly challenging each other on, are we being a good representation of society? Are we being a good representation of our clients? And if not, how can we change that? Where should we change things or create a bigger impact to become a stronger and inclusive company? And therefore, the changes are much easier to accomplish.
And maybe to add on Sasha as well is that, of course, for years, we've had company cultures where numbers were the number one thing and performance was the number one thing. But what we didn't look at is what is behind those numbers and how do we perform better. It was solely based on outcome. So the problem is that we had to kind of reverse engineer. Do we look at the people first and then how they become successful, or the success first and then the people? And what we understand now more and more is that when the people are actually happy within their company, they feel supported and they feel they can do their best job, then the
Hmm.
performance goes up. So we've actually been looking at it wrong for so many years. And now with the new generation leaders, we see that it flips. So it's actually the other way around.
Okay. So, but going back to, let's say, what is broken. So we used to have indeed a lot of focus on, let's say, financial performance in particular, earnings per share, to take just one item. Um, so, what is the if you break it down, what happened as a result of that to people, to planet, to customers? Because you said, Daniela, that you had mental problems as a result of the culture.
Yeah.
So is that? I assume that's more common.
Yeah, very common. And I think it's not a generational thing. Let me start with that, because there's a lot of people that say, yeah, but this generation just gets sick quicker, or, is weaker when it comes to work. They don't want to work as much. It has nothing to do with it. The
Hmm.
difference is that back in the day, we just ignored it and told people to keep working, with the result being that they even got sicker. I developed a panic disorder when I was around 25 years old and lasted for, I think, about 4 years very intensively. And that meant I had a panic attack every single day. So whether I was going on the car, on a train, visiting a client, it was constant. And it was because of the pressure of you have to keep working and keep performing, instead of how is it actually going with the work? How do I feel supported by the people that I work with?
Hmm.
And even though I ignored it because I was working in sales, I understood that I needed to be result driven. There was more that I needed, but there wasn't any space to talk about that. And the result is that I stopped working. So instead, if I had someone telling me, can we have a talk and see how we can improve things? Maybe I would have stayed at the company. So the thing that is broken is that we sometimes still ignore how we can make people perform best. And the result being people leave teams, people leave companies, and sometimes they don't even return in the same industry. So it's just a waste, because your biggest asset is your people. Even though you're selling a product, the biggest asset is your people. So why wouldn't you focus enough on that?
Sounds pretty logical, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yet it isn't, but so you are creating DEI champions. Sasha, what makes DEI, a company a DEI champion? What maybe wrong question, wrong way of phrasing it, but what boxes do I need to check?
It's a good question. It's a good question. So a D&I champion. So we maybe it's good to explain that we define 5 stages or 5 phases of maturity
Mm-hmm.
within becoming a D&I champion, because you don't become one overnight. And I think it's also important to emphasize that we are very happy that more and more companies are paying attention to this, and that they book a speaker, that they book a keynote or a workshop, or they spend some time on it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's important to know that becoming a DNI champion is the same like training for the biggest marathon of your life, because it is a constant thing you need to work on. It's almost like a muscle that you want to keep on training.
Mm-hmm.
So we define 5 phases of becoming a champion, and it starts with awareness. And that is a phase that, in all honesty, most companies still are. And they are in the awareness of about around the topics that we just discussed. So it is more than gender. We also talk about neurodiversity, about accessibility, about mental health, about physical health, about so many things. And for a lot of people, that is already an eye opener that, wow, it is so much more than I thought. From awareness, we go to intentional, which is the second phase, where it becomes a bit more normal, and you start talking a bit more about policies, and you start with implementing smaller policies, because the intention is, well, to grow in that maturity. In phase three, sorry, we go to what we call an integrated phase,
Mm-hmm.
where the policies and the processes are aligned
Mm-hmm.
and embedded. And then we talk a lot to recruitment processes, HR processes, employer branding, marketing is
Mm-hmm.
all embedded in what do they want to achieve with
Mm-hmm.
becoming a DNI champion. Phase four is more about sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we make sure that this is not a one-time thing, but it stays sustainable? And with that phase, we need a lot of extra support from leadership. So leadership is important throughout all phases
Yeah.
from the beginning, but especially becoming more of a leader. So
Mm-hmm.
also showcasing, well, maybe other companies in your domain or in your vertical that this is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sort of the ultimate phase is that you become an influencer. So we call it the influential phase. And the word already says it, right? So you are the one that other people look at.
Okay.
Uh,
Can you
and
give
you
an
are the one.
example of one of the, let's say, quote unquote, influencer companies that we have right now?
Ah, that is also a really good question because I think if you ask me honestly, a company that ticks all the boxes does not exist yet. But there are definitely a couple of names that are coming very, very close. So a couple of examples that we love to use are Patagonia, a clothing brand that has sustainability and inclusivity in their core values from the start, but they're also continuously are adapting and learning to what is happening around the world. So they are definitely one to watch. And another one in a very different domain, for example, that we love to use as an example is Salesforce, which is, of course, a big tech company. But especially within tech, there is still a lot of ground to win around inclusivity. But topics like equal pay, gender equality on leadership levels are things that they have already achieved years ago. So they are definitely one to watch.
Okay. So those Patagonia and Salesforce are companies to look out for if you want an example, let's say for your next step. This is where you want to go. On the policy level, a question that I really is in my mind is like, okay, how do we avoid that this becomes a policy for policy's sake? How do we avoid that it becomes, yeah, I have to have an inclusive culture because the policy says so, and not because I intrinsically think this is the right way to go.
You know what, the thing is, this is kind of the same as greenwashing, right? We can throw it under the same umbrella, pinkwashing. So when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community, it's very hard to define when it's just for policy sake and when it isn't.
Hmm.
What the main identifier is to look out for is how do people treat their people actually within the company. So if, for example, so pride is always a great example, I think, also because we work with so many examples. If a company is saying we're organizing an event, but we know for a fact that people who are from the community don't feel safe working there, that is when it's just something they implement because they just want to do it for outside, sort of saying. So when you really want to make sure that it's a policy that is something that's ingrained within your business, it becomes part of your DNA. So it'll flow way further than just one thing. So if we talk about gender balance, for example, we can say we want equity within a company. So say 50-50 of gender balance in management teams. But at the same time, women should feel safe within a company just as safe as men. We should not have reporting of women feeling unsafe at work. So that means that it's just maybe a policy that they just put down because they have to, but not work on it actively. So that is definitely a red flag to look out for. So when you hear noises within a company that they say, "I don't notice anything about this," no one's actually talking about this, or we haven't heard about it, those are definitely red flags. But what we do encourage, and this is something that we really want to tell companies, is don't be afraid to try, because we also talk with a lot of companies that say, yeah, but then I start and then they feel like I'm just doing it for the outside. The most important thing is tell people that you're trying, especially in your company. So explain to them, we have a policy now. We're going to try to set this up, try on error. We're going to bringing you along, and then you actually take a first step. So even if you feel like you're just doing it for the outside, but you have the right intention, tell people, and that's when you take it away immediately. So red flags are if you just do it and don't actually talk to your people about it. But if you start doing it, you take away the loads.
Okay, so it's also a lot about communication then.
A lot. Yeah, and it's we think the biggest part is it doesn't always have to be something in we hear a lot of companies to say, yeah, but on our website we need to have diverse people. But that's of course just a really, really small grain of the impact that you make. It's not about the models that you put in your clothing on the website, for example. But it's about what do you do inside of the company. It can be small things, just emailing saying, hey, we're taking more efforts in celebrating International Women's Day. We're setting up a survey now so we can test how people feel within the company. Small, small things. And communication also can be small. But really, yeah, start from the communication and then you're already on your way.
Okay, is that also the key step, let's say, to move from the awareness stage where, well, I guess everyone is aware that there's a thing like DEI right now, and even if they were not, Mr. Trump will make them aware
Yeah.
in the wrong
Yeah.
way, but
You're
that's
doing a lot
another
of
matter.
PR
But
actually. Yeah.
um, awareness-wise, we're there. Um, but is communication also the key to let's say take the next step, to move from the awareness stage to the implementation stage to really
I think it
start?
is, yeah,
Yeah.
also a good question. But yes, one of the biggest steps that a lot of times organizations forget is communication. So not just communication in taking your people into the oh we're moving forward, but also just the regular communication on what are we doing. Because every time when we speak to companies, we find out by doing an intake with them that they are already doing quite some interesting things, and they forget the most crucial step, and that is talking about it outside of the leadership doors, but talking with their teams,
Hmm.
talking in their internal and their external communication. So that is already such a yeah, feels like a low hanging fruit step almost to take, but a very crucial one that they forget.
Why
And the
why do
second
they
one,
why do they forget this step?
yeah, that is a really good one. I think it's on the one hand, it's in the heat of the moment, and as business as usual, becomes very normal for them to do something.
Hmm.
So to give you an example, yesterday we had a very nice session with one of our clients, fashion brand,
Hmm.
and they have something very nice that they give everybody an extra day off, and you don't have to give up the reason why you take that day off. So you can use it because it's your coming out day. You can use it because you want to celebrate iftar. You can use it because you want to take your mom a day shopping. It doesn't really matter. It's a personal extra day with the idea behind it to, with an inclusive mindset. Everybody can use a day extra, and you
Yeah.
don't have to explain why. What are you using it for? But they forgot to talk about that with their people. So they were surprised that not a lot of people are taking that day, but that's also because that sort of last step of communicating about it. What can you use it for? Why is it important? Why are we supporting this?
Hmm.
Yeah, makes all the difference because there's a lot of people that can complain behind the scenes and don't really know what is already in place. So that's why we love to to take our clients by the hand and inspire them to also look at what are we already doing and how can we get more out of the efforts that we are doing and what can we add from there on.
Okay. Final question about this topic is about timelines. So you move from awareness to implementation to integration to more the championing of and the influencing part. How long does that entire process take on average, Daniela?
It depends. That's the really boring answer. It's 100% depending on how willing the management team is to do it
Hmm.
and the people within the company. So there's no magic bullet for implementing something like this. In some industries, people are way more on board with the topic than others.
Hmm.
Some industries deal with a lot more, say, really ingrained discrimination because of the workforce or the kind of work that they do. And then you need to work way longer on the process, take baby steps towards it. Whereas some other companies can take strides and take a sprint because the team is already on board and they understand this is something that we're doing. So when I think about it, the main ingredients actually are, well, management's way of communicating it. How effectively can they, and how much buy-in do they have from their team, but also the team's willingness to do it. So
And
there's not
this is the management team's willingness to do it, or
no,
the
from the rest of the
company.
company. So,
Okay.
you, of course, you can't pull people into the process. They work at your company. They don't want a huge culture change most of the time. So, when they're not on board, you need to take baby steps to get them on board. So, there's, I don't think, really an average because it depends on the company, but that's also the beauty of it. Like Sasha said, it's really a marathon. You're never done learning, but it also means in things like this, so getting from one step to the other, it depends. But the most important thing is in every case to take it step by step. So don't go from 0 to 100. You can't go from the first maturity stage to the fifth. But it's
Not
yeah,
in one go anyway.
no. And
No.
it's the same as when you're building your career, right? You can start with the end goal in mind and then be there tomorrow. And it's the same with DEI. You got to take it in steps.
So let's say my company has achieved this champion state. What does this look like in terms of how it benefits the company, me as a manager, and also the shareholders, Sasha?
There is a long list of benefits that come to place, and we always love to use examples from some of the great consultancy companies that do a lot of research on this. So, for example, McKinsey and Deloitte are two big names that annually do a lot of research on what is the outcome of the companies that are investing in this.
Mm-hmm.
So some things that are good to mention is it is extremely beneficial for your innovative powers. If you become a diverse, but more importantly, an inclusive workplace, people are more productive. And with more productivity also comes more innovation.
Mm-hmm.
It is also really, really great for your retention because if people are happy, they don't want to leave. If they get inspired and grow and learn from other people in their team, why would you leave? And if there are equal opportunities for you to achieve whatever you want, because some people have the ambition to become the next CEO, but there's also people who want to become a subject matter expert
Yeah.
in their own field of expertise.
Yeah.
If you see people that are achieving that, that look like you or have a similar background like you, chances are much bigger that you think, hey, listen, I can also end up on that position. So
Yeah. Role
why would I
models.
leave? Yeah, especially since the focus now is more and more on retaining your talent instead of just hiring, hiring, hiring.
Mm-hmm.
Which we have seen right in the last few years that focus was very much on high volume hiring, but the retention rates were going up and up because people were not feeling safe or not feeling included, or there were a multitude of reasons. And the market was interesting enough because people could get something new within a week. So now we are very happy to see that the focus has been shifted much more on retaining talent. And that also becomes easier if you work on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay. So how does that then relate to each other, the two of them? So the focusing on DEI and retaining talent, is that through the lens of, okay, I have my role models in place, I create a safe space?
Yeah, that's one of the layers. So one of the things is people spend so much time at work. So you want to be at a place where you are valued, where you are seen, where you are recognized, and where you are safe, and where you can talk about anything that you need to talk about. So that can be career goals, but it can also be things like things that matter to you personally. And the more you can do that, the less reason there is for you to look somewhere else to find that. What you said as well, very, very true about role models. Um, for me, that was personally also a big one. I was always very ambitious, and I never saw women of color achieving management or director positions, almost never, or they were already way beyond, like, close to their pension age. And if you are a young, ambitious professional, you also want to see women in their 30s and their 40s, stepping on
Yeah,
that ladder.
more like you, or closer in also
Exactly.
in age to you. Yeah.
Yeah, and still age is one of the factors, but you want to see what you want to achieve. And for some people that is very normal, very logical, because we see some directors or VPs or CEOs that look a certain way or have a certain educational level that makes it very logical that they end up in that position. But there are multiple ways that you can become a CEO. Of course, you don't always have to have three master degrees. So that's why it's so important that the representation of all those different levels, is there in a healthy way. And one of the things that we say is also, is your company a good representation of a society? Because if it's a good representation of society, it means everybody can recognize themselves somewhere within the company, and that makes it easier to attract people, but even more to retain them.
Okay. So how do quota fit in, Daniela?
There's we get a lot of questions around quota, and then especially people being very for or very against quota, right? John? So this is what we hear a lot. So people saying, I think it's very unnecessary and it's going to help in the wrong way. And the honest answer is, in some ways it really helps, and in some ways it doesn't, right? So in some companies it's a great idea just because they're not getting any more ahead, and it's very important to start implementing it, because otherwise they're just not going to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
There's some industries that really struggle getting women in place. And in those cases, quota can help, because you say, this is simply just a goal we have, a KPI, and we want to have this percentage of women in leadership roles, period. And in that case, it helps, because sometimes you need a certain, well, we say in Dutch, a stick behind the door. Huh? So something that makes you really work towards it. And then a quota helps. In some cases, it's very unnecessary, because it's only going to help people resent the topic of DEI. So
Mm-hmm.
then you shouldn't do it. And this is in companies that already started working on the theme, already think that they're getting ahead of it. In that case, you don't have to start working with quotas. But in some cases, in order to get ahead, you simply need to have a percentage. So we talked to some of our advisors and people that we work closely with as well. And some of them have said, years ago, when there wasn't any gender balance within companies, we simply had to have a quota just to get it started. And then at some point you can let it go. So the simple answer is, with quotas, that they can really, really help in the right circumstances. But the most important thing is to talk to an expert or a consultant to see if they do in your case, and then you can put them in place. So
But
we're
it's
not
also
against.
about sort of creating a lever to get you to a next level, but only
Exactly.
to do that.
Yeah, and the bad thing is, and this is also with the term woke, for example, but also with quota, we develop such a resentment for the words just because of media. So when we started to talk about these topics, people said, "Ah, quota," but it's only going to make it more unfair and it's going to make it more unbalanced. But it's not. It's not the case. It's very black and white thinking. Sometimes it helps. Simple as that.
Hmm. Okay. What other things are hard about getting or creating DEI champions?
But it's hard in creating them. Yeah, well, an easy answer is the current state of media and the world, I think. Uh, what we've seen is that, well, diversity and inclusion was first coined as a topic within companies in about the 80s, 90s. And it's been very dormant up until Black Lives Matter, what Sasha talked about before as well, when companies massively started to invest in the topic. So this was during COVID time. What we see now is that when a topic is so new and things like this happen within a political landscape, is that a lot of companies and people will start to rely on that and say, see, it doesn't work. See, it's something we shouldn't do.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
so confirmation bias kicks in.
exactly. So that's what makes it really, really hard at the moment, is people getting extremely biased by what they read in the media. and what they hear from political leaders. What we try to do is hold a mirror in front of people and say, if you unload the topic a little bit, don't listen to politics. Do we agree it's important to focus on your people within a company? Because that's basically all it means. So a huge challenge is debunking everything that we're reading and what we're hearing. But definitely also what comes with that is what people then bring into the conversation. So what is often the most tricky thing in our processes is when people start to sort of intercept the process and say, yeah, but I read something about this, or actually I don't agree, and then try to infect the people around them. That is something that makes it really hard for us to set it up. What we keep trying to do is make the team smaller if we need to, and say very easy. All it means is that we focus on the people and we focus on the culture. So we can mostly all agree that that's something that's important to focus on.
Okay, so making the topic bite size is
Yeah,
a way of
sometimes.
dealing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes it fun?
I think one of so many things make it fun, besides the fact that we love to see it click almost.
Hmm.
So when you offer it more in bite-size pieces, it becomes easier and also more fun for other people to work with. And sometimes we tend to forget that for us this is our daily bread and butter, but for most people it's not. So if you can help people get inspired by all the opportunities there are in creating a more inclusive workforce and inclusive policies, you see that they start having fun with it as well. So we challenge them on a creative level and we challenge them on a personal level. And yeah, by opening up and being a little bit vulnerable, you see that people get to know each other better. So we've been working with management teams that have worked together for years and years, and after one workshop, they learn so much that they never knew about each other. Also because nobody ever asked them or challenged them on the levels that we do when we want to make them a DNI champion. So it's a lot of fun. And it's beautiful to see the progress that companies and people are making once they open up to the topic more.
Okay. Danielle, anything to add?
I think what makes it also a lot of fun is to see that more and more people are understanding how important it is, because it's such a new topic as well for companies. It's also it's exciting to see where it's taking everyone. And it's such a controversy now to talk about it, which makes it also very exciting. But whatever we hear coming from the US, we see that a lot of people are connecting with it more and more. Because it's never been so widespread that we talk about it. It's never been on the front page of a newspaper. So even though we think that a lot of people are now starting to be against it, it's exciting to see that a lot of people are connecting with it more and more. Yeah, and also what I think is a great part is when you had a session, someone comes to you and says, "You changed the way that I thought," or "You changed the way that I see myself within this company." And we also have a lot of people that say, I was always afraid to talk about this, and now I can, or now I want to." So we even have people coming out during sessions.
Okay.
And those are moments that you think, oh my God, it's really making an impact. So what is great about this topic is you sometimes directly feel what you're doing and the change that you're making.
Yeah. You,
So that's what's exciting about it.
okay. Yeah, I can imagine that if you have someone really, well, at least coming out in the sense of, okay, I now understand why this is really important, and I want to, yeah, help.
Yeah.
Those are really magical moments. Yeah, that I
Yeah,
can
but also
understand.
literally people that said in front of my whole team, I never told you before, but I'm bisexual. And then, like people that will physically, literally come out, which
Yeah,
is huge for them to do.
yeah,
And then for them to feel the freedom to do that is, yeah, that's magical.
yeah. That I can imagine. Absolutely. So I had a question here, but I'm going to ask this a bit differently. Let's say Donald Trump is listening. what what advice would you give him to make the U.S. government more diverse and more inclusive? And what is the
Wow,
first step he should take
that is
besides
that
calling
is a
you?
that is a big one. Um, I think we have achieved our goal if Donald Trump calls us because he wants to make his team more inclusive. But I think my tip would be, or my first advice would be, besides working with us, obviously, is to start listening to people and really listening. So, what do you need? What do you feel? And what can we do, or what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
And that costs nothing besides time. But listening to your people and really asking for constructive feedback on how you have been doing and how you can do better is already a very big step to take. And that would be my first advice.
Okay, Danielle.
I think, well, the first thing I would say is you are in the wrong position and you got to get someone else in. To be honest, that's the first thing I'd say. If he really wants to stay and he has a change of heart and he says, I want to work on a topic,
Yeah.
I fully agree with Sas. It's just start listening to people, um, but also see what the effects have been so far of you disregarding the topic
Mm-hmm.
because it hasn't been pretty. Someone said there was a funny quote about it, but basically, when we still had DNI, that the banks were still good and the economy was great.
Yeah.
So it's also take a look at the effect that it actually has. So has it done any good to reverse it so far? So for him, a tip would really be to yeah, take a look in the mirror and listen to the people around you because they'll definitely advise you otherwise. But if he would listen to this, I'd literally eat my shoe because
Oh, me
I
too.
don't know. I don't know if he would. I don't know if he would. But if he's listening, we
Okay.
still would
Well,
like to have a visa to travel in the US. So
it's well. Yeah,
I don't know if he
I
will.
don't know about that, but
No.
I hope at one point someone there will start listening and paying attention because I to your
Yeah.
point I agree that most of the stuff he has reversed has so far led to more instability than good things. But yeah,
Definitely.
maybe that's his plan. I don't know.
Yeah, and then also looking at like Harvard, for example, which is the latest
Yeah,
example, that has said, "Well, we won't. We simply won't listen because it's against everything we stand for."
yeah,
So, if you say you're the land of the free, then you have to live up to it at least.
yeah. This I
Amen to that.
Yeah, I really hope that there are more universities who are like, okay, yeah, we understand that you asked this, but we're not simply not going to execute on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what I was wondering about, are you bootstrapped, or is it? Do you look for investors at all?
Not at the moment. No, so far we're bootstrapped, but there will be things in the future, right, Sas?
Yes, of course. We have very ambitious plans, but we started bootstrapped. We are still bootstrapped, and if anybody is interested to invest, they can always, send us a DM or slide in our DMs. But so far, we've been doing very, very well bootstrapped.
Okay, cool. But that's on purpose then?
Um, yes and no. So both of us come from commercial backgrounds, and our previous companies have also been bootstrapped companies.
Mm-hmm.
So it was also the most logical way for us to start. But also, we found out that um, funds, the funds in DNI and the way to funds is not always an easy route to have and to take.
Yeah.
And if you are solely dependent on that, yeah, it would take probably in our case more time to achieve the things and to work with the type of companies that we are working with and working for. So I think as an entrepreneur, it's important to find something that fits you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in an ideal situation, maybe a combination of both would even blast us through the stratosphere even more. But so far, we have been really focusing on our strengths, and our strengths are one of our strengths is our network and our commercial power. So yeah, that makes why we chose that route up until so far.
Okay, cool. The reason I asked is because we met, Sasha and I met at Femstart. So I was wondering.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, which is a fundraiser for
Yeah,
female founders.
yeah.
Yeah, and that is also something that it can go hand in hand, right? Because we love to see more diversity in the entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah.
You still see also that is very much dominated by certain groups,
Hmm.
and we love to support these kinds of initiatives. On the one hand, because well, we love to inspire other female founders in starting up a business,
Hmm.
maybe secretly also inspiring them in not to rely too much only on the funds, because you can achieve a lot as well by yourself. And that's why it's so nice if you have other women, in our case, other women that you can talk to, that you can drag along to events. And that's also how our friendship initially started, because I was at the event, Dani was speaking, and I thought, I don't know a lot of female entrepreneurs from my age that are, doing something similar, also started bootstrapped and, build a successful agency. So, yeah, that's why we also love to put some time and effort in these kinds of initiatives.
Let's move to the future. So Danielle, in let's say in 10 years from now, House of Inclusion has proven to be wildly successful. Donald has even asked you to visit him in the White House. Uh, what does the future then look like, and especially what is possible then, what is not possible now?
Um, so in the future, what I really hope is that, well, for us as a company, that we are way more established, so that we are a name that is very well known, not only here in Europe but also across the oceans. Not for us, but because that would mean that the topic is something that became something that's integrated in business. So in 10 years' time, what I hope is a no-brainer is that we no longer have to explain what the value is of DEI, why you have to work with it, but that's something that just comes natural, just as using social media as a company, or making sure you have an HR department, for example. It should be something that comes natural. So what I hope in 10 years' time is that we have become a household name in many people's and companies' minds.
Mhm.
That D&I is something that is just simply something that comes with the business. Also, when you have a startup, but just a no-brainer when we talk about a company. That's what I really hope. And in terms of revenue and stuff, I think we can leave behind because it's really not the focus at the moment. It's to become way known, and DEI mainly.
Okay. Sasha, anything to add?
Yeah, I think the only thing to add is one of our mission from the start was to impact as many companies as possible. There are a lot of companies. So I think until we achieve that, we still have a lot to do. Uh, and I fully agree with what Danny said about it should not be an extra thing, but it should be something very normal, like marketing, like HR, that is integrated in each and every company from the moment you go to the Chamber of Commerce until you maybe raise funds or you sell your company, that it's the most normal thing to talk about.
Okay. Would it help to have a sort of Champions League of companies?
Yes. Yeah, that is a really nice idea to have a Champions League. So the examples that we shared earlier, of course, are already, I think, in our opinion, playing Champions League or
Huh?
close to Champions League.
Yeah.
But it would be really great if it becomes something that companies are so proud of that they have an award or they have something that is really recognized on a global level, because there are initiatives like award shows, etc., but it's all a lot of times very locally focused. If we have something that is a global establishment that really recognizes the companies that are really walking the talk, that are really doing everything all day every day that is needed, yeah, that would I think also very change the perspective of it. But
Yeah,
it
but
takes different things.
it would also make it. That's I was thinking this through while I asked the question. It would also make it a sort of competition, which
Yeah,
is
in a way.
which is a really masculine value, So you
Yeah.
bring it into the masculine domain all of a sudden.
Yeah, but our women are not necessarily, or femininity is not necessarily not competitive, or masculinity only. I'm not trying to make this a gender thing, but it's sometimes it's good to have a little competition, a little, you know,
Yeah.
we can all
No, no,
outperform
no.
each
But
other.
it's not that I don't think that women are not competitive. I know
No, I know.
a lot of
Yeah,
women who are very competitive, and
yeah,
that's
And you're
and
talking to two of them, by the
yeah,
way. So
yeah. So, but anyway,
yeah, but
get my point.
I'm gonna write it down. I do like the idea of DNI Champions League.
Yeah.
Food for thought.
Okay. Um, so besides suggesting the DEI Champions League, what else can men do to contribute to more diversity, equity, and inclusion?
awesome question. It's I think men, but also women, and then especially white men and women can do a lot. Most important thing to do is speak up when you see something that's happening, and that's also the most important one. Is don't leave it to people that feel that they are misjudged or discriminated to speak up, but do it for them, because it makes it much easier than to create a platform. So most important thing that you can do is speak up and say it when you see something that isn't right, or when you think that something can change. And don't be afraid to take up space doing that as well. We hear a lot of men especially that say, yeah, but I'm a man, so should I be doing this? Shouldn't the people
Uh huh.
be doing this that are affected? But that's not the case. Speak up and create a platform when you can. So that's definitely the most important thing. And respond to things online that you see, like, comment, share whenever you can. Don't only let women post stuff around International Women's Day or when there's something horrible in the news happening. Yeah, also do it yourself.
Yeah, that's also what I would say. So we love to call out the ally in everyone because everybody can be an ally for other underrepresented people. So if you are not queer, you can still go to a queer party and be an ally there and learn also from other communities because that's how you can help them in listening, in seeing and experiencing what they experience, and sometimes use your privileges more for good. So we are all privileged in a different way. The privileges are not shared equally, but everybody can do so much more with everything that was already given to you. So that is, I think, always the call to action. If people want to do more, is just reflect on what do you already have, and also on what do you don't know, and make sure that you know more about those people and those communities.
Yeah. Also
Also,
by joining those
yeah, and a great thing
communities.
you can do also maybe to add is people that want to learn. We organize an event twice a year, and there's one coming up on June 3rd. It's called the Culture Code. And during the Culture Code, we really talk about this. So, how can you create a platform? How do you make a culture that lasts? This is not just for people in HR or business leaders, it's for everyone to learn. So, definitely also visit the Culture Code.
We'll put that in the show notes and
Right.
in the LinkedIn post.
Yeah, so we recommend it. Tim Hofman is coming, who is a great ally. So lots to learn from him at least, and our other speakers as well.
Okay. Sounds like a great place to close. Danielle, Sasha, if people want to learn more about you and about House of Inclusion, where would you like to send them?
Ooh, first of all, definitely visit our website, www.house-of-inclusion.com. We talk a lot on LinkedIn, on our House of Inclusion page, but also our private pages, where we share a lot of insights as well. So make sure to follow us there. And whoever wants to know more, always make sure to send us a message, also to share your experiences. So we're very open for questions, coffees, or DMs. So make sure to do that. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Sas?
No, I think you hit at least the most important platforms but that people can reach out to us. And also, if you just have a question and you don't know if you can actually work with us on the long term, but you just want to ask something, yeah, please ask it to us instead of holding it within yourself and not solving it. So feel free to reach out. We are very friendly and very nice to talk to. So happy to talk about this all the time.
And if you want to follow us on a more unhinged basis, you can also follow our Instagrams, which is less work related. So if you want to learn even more, you can also find
Yay.
definitely go to LinkedIn first when it's work related.
Sacha Martina, Danielle Jiskoot, thank you very much for this awesome conversation. Really enjoyed it. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. And until the next episode, keep being awesome. Well, that's a wrap for episode 100 of Women Disrupting Tech about how we can build DEI champions in tech and beyond with Sacha Martina and Danielle Jiskoot from House of Inclusion. Danielle, Sacha, and I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. And if you'd like to learn more about or connect with Danielle, Sacha, and House of Inclusion, please check out the links in the show notes. As usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech.blog. When you enjoyed listening to this episode, please follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or YouTube. Following Women Disrupting Tech is a great zero-cost way to support my guests in making inclusion in tech the new normal by the end of 2032. You can also follow us on social media. On LinkedIn and Instagram, please check out at The True Story Company, and on YouTube and Substack, you can follow us via at Women Disrupting Tech. On Substack, I share more in-depth stories and behind-the-scenes insights about each episode and about the research I do. So don't forget to subscribe on Substack for more about Women Disrupting Tech. Finally, if you want to connect with me, you can reach me via Dirkjan at womendisruptingtech.blog, or you can connect on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, simply search for my name and you'll find me. With that, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope to see you in episode 101. And until then, keep being awesome.